Carrie Chi. She is the Chief Human Resources Officer for First Advantage Federal Credit Union and the President and CEO of Advantage Rewards, a QSO meant to help local businesses and credit unions, obviously, with the challenges related to human resources.
Yeah.
So welcome, Carrie. I'm happy to have you. We share a wall, but now we're going to share a podcast episode. So
That's great. Yeah, thanks for having me.
absolutely. Carrie and I work right next to each other, and I get to hear everything that goes on here in our office every single day.
Uh-oh.
I don't want any of that stuff. I don't want to hear any of that information that goes on. So I thought today would be a good day for us to chat about some HR related issues. I've touched on a few of them, but why don't you just start with giving us just a little overview of what Advantage Rewards does?
Sure. So Advantage Rewards is a credit union service organization. So it's essentially an LLC that's owned by First Advantage. And what we do is provide services to our businesses in the community or businesses that are members of ours as well. So we have three core lines of service we provide. The first is HR consulting, which is mostly me, although I have had some of my department assist at times. And that can be anything from, restructuring your organization from a leadership level, doing any compensation work, executive compensation work as well, or just looking at general HR compliance. So that's the HR consulting line of work. And then the second line of work is benefits brokerage. And so I'm a licensed benefits agent in health, life, and annuities, and Advantage Rewards has two benefits brokerage partners, Managed Benefits Incorporated and the Summit Group of Virginia. And depending on the client's needs, I will match them up with that benefits broker. We do full spectrum, medical, dental, vision, life, disability, ancillary products like worksite, and also some niche products such as long-term care insurance, which has been a great addition for us to offer. Then the third line of services we offer is professional employer organization, PEO brokerage. And our partner in that is BRG Advisory Group. So PEOs offer services for businesses that are looking for someone to run their payroll, do their workers' comp, and even offer benefits. It's a bit of outsourced HR support, and there are a lot of smaller businesses that are looking for that versus having to have that support in-house.
What's an example of what it's a PEO, you said? What is an example of a PEO?
So some of the major PEO companies out there is Insperity, and then there's Paychex and ADP. So, you might look at Paychex and ADP and think of them more as just HRIS solutions, which they have, but they also have an arm, which is the professional employer organization solution. So again, they'll do your payroll, offer your benefits, workers' comp, like a whole package.
Stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah. So for the HR consulting we provide through Advantage Rewards, I don't serve as like a recruiter, a headhunter, and I won't run someone's payroll. I can offer them advice, but I just don't have the bandwidth to do that, full time for an organization. So it's been a nice addition for us to offer PEO services for companies that are interested. Jason, what's really interesting to me is for a couple years now, I've been approached by PEOs who have wanted to do a channel partnership with First Advantage, and that's where we can refer our business members directly to them. But I don't know what is the best fit for a business client on the PEO side. So for me, I think it's much better for the client to get multiple bids from different PEOs to see which one meets their needs the best. I mean, they might have different medical insurance networks, or different types of services they provide. And so being able to offer PEO brokerage this year has been a huge benefit to Advantage Rewards.
How did you identify this as a need within the local area? I mean, you had just said that there's PEOs that are looking to partner with First Advantage to try and get some of that business. But outside of that, what drove you to establish the QSO to kind of service the local credit unions and local organizations?
Sure. So I've been in human resources since 2006, so coming up on 20 years now, and I've been in various industries. I've been in software with MicroStrategy, media with the New York Times, government contracting, healthcare, and I came into finance January of 2020, and the first thing I did coming into this position with First Advantage is, say, okay, who's your broker? Because I get really into the weeds when it comes to benefits and plan setup and cost and such. And they let me know who the broker was, but my next question was, why doesn't First Advantage offer brokerage and HR consulting? You have a lot of business members, so First Advantage isn't restricted to just individual members. They have a thriving line of services for businesses, but they hadn't offered this at the time. And so very fortunate. Paul Muse is our president and CEO of First Advantage, and he is wonderful, supportive boss, and probably will watch this and hear that comment too. But
Brownie points.
I know, really. So he was like, yeah, I don't know why credit unions aren't offering that service. But I do know that credit unions have a business model called a credit union service organization. And that was something I wasn't familiar with at all. Certainly familiar with just a traditional LLC, but not a QSO.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2020 and 2021, we talked with different consultants, Dollar and Associates, and then QSO Law to really see what's out there. What are credit unions doing in terms of providing these services? What do other QSOs look like? And then decided in 2022 to officially launch Advantage Rewards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it could have been delayed a bit because of a thing called COVID, but at least we had an opportunity to really go deep into what is out on the market. And frankly, at the time it was launched in 2022, the only similar QSO structure to Advantage Rewards might have been out in the West, or I think there was something in the South, but this was really a newer offering. And locally, we see this offering through financial institutions, not credit unions, but banks. Town Bank has Town Benefits, and they provide this type of services. And then way back when, there was BB&T, who started, their own insurance arm, turned it to McGriff. BB&T is since under Truist now, I believe, and then McGriff is now, they went private equity, and now they're with Marsh McClellan. So we've seen those services offered in the financial market locally. We just hadn't seen anything through the credit union space.
Is there a particular organization that you think is ideal to engage with Advantage Rewards?
Yeah, so it really depends on what they're looking for. We can help businesses that are as small as a 2-person shop to as large as thousands of people. It just depends on what they need. For HR consulting, honestly, I've been in organizations as large as 60,000 employees, and so scope is a number of employees. That's not something that sets me back. If a business was looking for PEO services, now I'd say the ideal sized business for that is probably 35 employees and below. I mean, larger organizations are going to have in-house HR because you get to a certain point that you just need that. Sure. Now, for the benefits brokerage space, which is our other line of service, that can be employers up into thousands of employees, because both Managed Benefits and the Summit Group do service different employers of that size. Managed Benefits has a real specialty in small business, and so if we have a smaller headcount-wise client, then we might, pair them with managed benefits for their medical, dental, vision needs. Alternatively, Summit Group does a lot of niche disability products. So coming from healthcare, if a surgeon is disabled, you want to make sure they've got really good own occupation coverage, and there's a
Mhm.
revenue share with their hosting organization. So
Mhm.
you need a specialty product for that.
Mhm.
Um, Also, with the Summit Group, we'll do certain executive compensation products too, split dollar plans and such. So the long and short of it is, it depends on the client's needs, but we can certainly meet quite a bit of their needs too.
Great. What sort of engagement have you had with the local credit unions? And are you just looking right now to stay within Virginia, or is this a national effort? What's your target area?
Yeah. So for the local credit unions, what was very refreshing coming into the credit union space is that credit unions are collaborative. That was a foreign thing to me, having come from for-profit, more fierce competition in my past experiences. And so for our local credit unions, our HR executives, we actually will get together for lunch. We'll, share ideas, as long, of course there's business boundaries, but it's been really helpful to network with them, which has been great, and learn what they're doing for their staff. Now, in terms of Advantage Rewards, do we want to stay local or do we want to go national? Frankly, with the benefit brokerages we provide, we're able to provide national services. They're licensed nationwide. For
Mhm.
my HR consulting services, I have done consulting work for organization that has employees in Hawaii and California, the two most complicated states there are for HR. So really, I feel well equipped to handle any national HR questions. And frankly, I do have a background in international HR support as well. So having to determine, housing allowance, cost of living, certain things for overseas folks, I've been
Mhm.
able to do that as well.
Have you do you currently have some of the local credit unions sort of participating, or you haven't cracked that nut yet?
So it's a long sales cycle when it comes to insurance and long-term
Hmm.
care and such. And so we've had a lot of discussions and there's been a lot of interest. But I think the biggest barrier to getting in with an organization, especially when you're talking benefits, is that most are going to have an established relationship with a benefit broker. And so what I like to put out is Advantage Rewards does not need to be your benefit broker. However, we can broker a niche product like long term care. You don't have to change brokerage for that. That's something that we can support you with. We can make sure to give you the necessary documents for your annual 5500 filings and such. So, and I do think a lot of organizations aren't used to like working with multiple brokers, and so that could be a little new flavor for them. But trust me, we can do it very well.
Um, I don't know if you've been down this road, but a couple of things you might consider is there is a National Association of Credit Union Service Organizations, NACUSO.
So yes,
They might be a good resource to sort of help you sort of spread the word a little bit. They have a nice database on their website. I think you're out there. I'm not sure. I think they
yeah,
grabbed that list from the NCUA, and then so there may be some opportunities there to participate. The other thing you might consider is some of the league events, and not just the league, the local league, but there are a number of them scattered throughout the country, and that might be an opportunity to get in front of those people. A lot of them have on-site meetings, and if there's an opportunity for you to go there and sort of sit at a booth and be a uh, a talking head for
yeah.
Advantage Rewards, at some of these various local conferences, that might be a good opportunity.
Yeah, that would be great. And I think it's wonderful too, like where the Virginia Credit Union League then came into now the larger league that's,
Hmm.
the southeastern area. So I think there could be a lot of opportunities there. And
Mhm.
I certainly, I've served on a number of panel events before and
Mhm.
spoke and enjoy doing so. So that would be
Mhm.
something good to pursue.
Great. Hopefully, the podcast episode, gets a little
Yeah,
interest from some folks, and maybe we'll start to send some folks your way.
that would be great. That would be great.
What's next for Advantage Rewards? I mean, obviously you're trying to, get your foot in the door with as many credit unions as you can, but with all the things that are happening with AI and the marriage of, human capital and technology and stuff like that, is that an area you're pursuing at all?
Oh, yes, yes. So I guess a couple things, and I guess what's next in the literal sense, very short term, I'm going to be at the Virginia Academy of Family Physicians conference. They have two conferences a year. Their summer conference is in Virginia Beach, obviously, because of the wonderful beach weather down there, and so I'll be having a table as an exhibitor for that this Friday and then
Hmm.
Saturday. So that's very near term. Now, in terms of longer term services, I actually just returned from the Society of Human Resources Management, the national conference that was in San Diego this year, and it was excellent. And honestly, so many sessions on the intersection of artificial intelligence and human intelligence. And
Hmm.
there's actually now a certification offered by SHRM called the AI/HI certification. I am interested in getting that because as you well know, anybody can use artificial intelligence, but are they asking the right questions? Are they checking the data? Have a healthy level of doubt to make sure that they have the correct information? Are they safeguarding
Hmm.
personal identifiable information, or are they putting things in there they shouldn't? Is it open source? Is it closed source? So many different variables. And the truth of the matter is, whether or not an organization has a platform for AI that is used company wide, employees are using it. So they're going to have it on their phone and they're going to, ask questions of it and such. And so I think that now is the time to get in front of employees and have education on how to use it responsibly, what you should and shouldn't use it for.
Hmm.
Even can help them with their own personal use of it. So it's here.
And it's not going anywhere, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Hmm.
actually, I'm glad you brought that up. I was meaning to tell you, SHRM now has this AI/HI conference they hold in at the end of March each year in San Francisco. So I'm gonna try to go to that next year. I was gonna see if you or Amber might be interested. It seems like
Hmm.
fascinating. So I'll have to share details.
So
Yeah.
there's in the upcoming list of episodes that I'm scheduled to do is, it might be something you may want to listen to, but you may also want to grab my guest. He has his name is Dr. Jason Hart. I have no problem remembering his first name. He's a professor
Oh,
at CNU, and he wrote a book, and the book's called Thinking Scientifically in a World Full of Nonsense. It's actually a textbook, and he actually has a course based on filtering out nonsense and why people believe what they believe, especially the nonsense, why people believe,
yeah.
things that are just frankly disprovable by science or even common sense.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting that that was something that was covered in at your SHRM conference. Um,
Yeah.
it's becoming more and more of a problem. You can just invent whatever you want in an AI model. So being able to have a finely tuned BS meter is becoming a very, very
Oh,
important.
that's true. We should, is that one of the KSA, knowledge, skills, and abilities, a
Yes,
finely
for
tuned
sure.
BS meter? That
Yes,
would
you
be,
must have a finely tuned BS meter.
might need to put that on some of our job
Mhm.
descriptions as requirements
For
going
sure,
forward.
absolutely. There are several positions where that is a requirement. That's not
Yeah.
even in other duties.
Yeah, no, it's just core,
Um,
essential.
so that sort of thing is interesting. And is this an area of exploration for Advantage Rewards, more kind of advisory and kind of a consultative approach, where you might not be providing a service per se, but really providing some, be on retainer for sort of how to field those sorts of questions, whether it's from employees or about direction, that an organization might take with respect to things like AI and stuff like that.
Absolutely. That's definitely something I'd be happy to assist organizations with. Honestly, with my consulting services, I will, go in and work through the scope of work. But if it's something that is not worth it for the company to pay me to actually do the work on. So say it's more like administrative in nature or something like that. I'll be honest with them. I'll be like, you
Mm-hmm.
certainly could pay me for this, but it's not going to be good value for your buck, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I have been really available if any clients or anyone's had any questions. I'm happy to help them, and if they call me for something quick, I'm definitely um, not I'm not an attorney, obviously. I'm not going to be like, oh, that was, gosh, 1/30th of an hour, and I'm going to charge you for that. I'm not going that route. So
Yeah.
I really want to build relationships and be an asset for local businesses, national businesses,
Mm-hmm.
businesses that are doing business with the credit union. I'm always happy to help with that. So.
So, what's one thing that you think a lot of organizations get wrong in terms of human resources? If there's one thing you could go into an organization and wave a magic wand and say, "Stop doing that," what is that?
I would say benefit construct in the space of medical. Um, I have seen a lot of medical plans where, and I've especially seen this in the credit union space too. I mean, financial institutions, credit unions are naturally risk averse, as they should be. But there comes a certain point when they need to evaluate, should I go to, I'm a fully funded medical plan. I'm paying, buku dollars to Anthem or whoever it is. But should we consider going to self insured? Or there's an in between step called a level funded plan where you're self insured, but you're sharing the risk with the insurer. And then there's other baby steps like the different organizations can take. Maybe they're not quite ready to do that leap to self-insured with medical, but they can do it with dental. That's super easy and helps give their accounting department a feel for weekly claims coming in and the separation of claims from your just your enrollment fees and such. So I feel that as medical forever becomes even tighter margins and just more expensive for an organization, I think it's important for them to have a fresh look at their strategy. And I'm just going to say it may not always be with their broker, because having an outside view, even on the consultant side, again, I don't have to be your broker, but having someone from the outside come in and say, I've done this, and this to save this organization money. Let's look at what you've got going on. And when I say save money, I don't mean cut programs. Because if you cut programs, especially those that are valued, you're going to lose employees and you're not going to save money.
Mm-hmm.
So the cost of attrition would just be too high. So it's about making your plan smart. And are you offering the benefits that your workforce is looking for? So First Advantage, we added a high deductible health insurance plan as a third option. We had the traditional PPO and then the point of service plan. But there are some folks that want a health savings account because they want to put away extra money for retirement. And then there's some employees who are like, I just want the rock bottom cost. But
Mm-hmm.
then you have to be smart. I could go on and on about this, but like if you have a high deductible plan, you got to be smart about, maybe you want to add a rider to your contract that certain maintenance medication is covered at 100% before deductible, because you don't want that employee who's looking to have the cheapest plan as possible not be compliant with their blood pressure medicine and then have a heart attack. So
Right.
there's just so many considerations, and there's so much you can do. And then I also think the other thing organizations can get wrong, I call it stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. And so they're not looking far enough out to think about the whatever change they're making. is it truly saving them money? Or does it just look like it's saving money? What's the other impact it would have? So I think there's a lot to be said for just having someone on the outside who has worked in benefits for organizations of different industries, different sizes, has tried a lot of things. I think it's nice to get a fresh perspective on what people are doing with their plans.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
What you sort of answered the second part of that question. I was going to ask specifically what you see in credit unions are no-nos that they're doing.
Yeah.
But you kind of answered that already. So how about what are some of the challenges that you're seeing in recruiting good quality candidates for openings that you have? And are there certain areas that are harder to fill than others?
Sure. So thankfully, we were discussing this quite a bit at the conference I just came out of, and I have got to knock on wood around here, but thankfully the waves of attrition have seemed to stabilize, and I would say in general, when we think about voluntary like resignation attrition, we are falling either back to levels of normal or maybe slightly below, so that is a good thing. But in terms of
What do you think
recruit,
the reason for that is? Is it
I
uncertainty
think,
about what's going on, maybe in the federal government and with the economy?
yeah, I think there's economic uncertainty. There's certainly year over year just layoffs in general with
Mhm.
not just many different industries have increased, and tech industries especially so, government contractors for sure. Just as there's been this cutback on the federal side for funding, because it's never just the federal positions that are being impacted, right? It's
Sure.
everything that supports in that ecosystem, all the government contractors, the suppliers that come to that. So all of that's contracting. So you are seeing employees being hesitant to make a change, which is good for many organizations, but I think that's going to continue for a while. So you've got people staying. So we really need to upskill these people and provide them with the training and tools they need to be successful in all of the workplace changes that are going on, like AI and other things. So the other thing we were talking about at the conference with recruitment, and this blew my mind, and I need to get some like stats in front of me because I'm just speaking from memory right now. However, the fastest growing segment of workers later, like returning to the workforce, are those over age 75.
Not
And
surprised.
I was shocked. Now, when I say returning to the workforce, does it mean they're coming back full time? No, not always.
Hmm.
But it's just fascinating to think about that.
Hmm.
Now, with recruitment in general, you've got people who are less eager to leave positions because they're worried about economic uncertainty. They kind of want to stay hunkered down where they are. So your candidate flow to your positions may be less. But the other reason it's less, and this is going to continue for the foreseeable future, is that your demographics, they have shifted. So birth rates have fallen over the subsequent generations from the baby boomers, and so you do not have the one-to-one employee replacement
Hmm.
that you used to, and that's going to continue indefinitely. And so I think the challenge for employers, and I know you've talked about this quite a bit here too, is looking at how can we do things efficiently. And it's not efficiently for the sake of reducing staff or anything. It's efficiently so that we can have we can scale up with
Hmm.
the same staff that we have, because it will be harder to recruit. I also think employers need to be willing to, especially hiring managers, open their eyes beyond like, does this person meet the job requirements exactly? They need to be able to think, does this person have the aptitude to fill this position, and hire for that combination of skill and aptitude, and then train to get
Hmm.
where you need to be.
Yeah, it's not about doing more with less. It's about doing more with the same.
Exactly.
You don't
Yeah.
necessarily need to add headcount to take care of, your existing needs and, 20% more or 25% more. It
Yeah.
just means those folks are having a better time of their job day to day. And as you add more, you're not making their lives miserable. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's
And
definitely.
I think that needs to be a communication point from management to colleagues. I sometimes feel that the colleagues are not always understanding, and I'm not saying this for First Advantage like specifically, but I'm saying in general, do they
Mhm.
understand why companies are trying to be more efficient? It's not to make cuts, it's to
Mhm.
continue to thrive with the
Yeah.
workforce we have.
Um, I don't remember who it was, but one of my previous guests, we talked about efficiency, and we talked about it in terms of being a more valuable um, carrot in terms of corporate culture. So, you go through these efforts to build this corporate culture, and you communicate it, and you have an all hands meeting, and everybody stands around, and we cheerlead because it's important to have corporate culture. But is does a line of business employee get more value out of this corporate culture statement or a video that we do or anything like that, or do they get more value out of not having to do that thing that takes them 25 steps to do every day, and now it only takes them 1 or 2 steps? So does that communicate that it's important for management to look at what you do on a daily basis and find ways to make your lives easier?
Yeah.
So do you get more value out of that, or do you get more value out of the culture? So that was an interesting conversation. I think it was with the I don't remember which episode it was. They're all merged together in my brain. My knowledge stack is just a pile of mush now. It's melted ice cream. Uh, so yeah, I mean, those are all interesting things and interesting areas. What else, is going on with Advantage Rewards? Is there anything else that we missed that you want to talk about?
Gosh, I just think, we continue to grow and, offer new services to businesses, which is great. That we've connected local businesses quite a bit to the Hampton Roads Workforce Council, because there are a lot of programs at the state level that the Workforce Council helps facilitate that can help in businesses get tax credits for hiring. They get training for their staff, and also even just direct placement. And so that has been great, because it's one of those things where the resources are there and have been for a long time,
Mhm.
but how do you centralize it so businesses can access it, and then educate the businesses that it's there, because they get so busy just running their business that they don't have time to go and search for those kind of resources. So that's been exciting to have them,
Mhm.
to have the Hampton Roads Workforce Council team come and speak to some of our business members at our business advisory committee on these services. And I'm happy to talk to any other businesses that are interested in taking advantage
Mhm.
of those state resources too.
So, one of the things that I've stolen from another podcaster is I ask my current guest a question from my prior guest, and
Okay.
I ask you sort of to pass the baton. So, my last guest, chronologically, I believe was Mark Wormgore, but Mark and I had to hop off quick, so we did not get an opportunity to share a question. So I'm going to go back 2 episodes.
Okay.
So the question was, and I'm going to caveat this with, you're not allowed to use anybody from your current employer.
Okay.
So uh, tell us about an experience with your best boss that you've had.
Okay. So
Who was your best
outside.
boss? So you can't use Paul.
Yeah.
Yep. No more brownie points for you. So you're gonna have to pick somebody else.
So I'm going to go with Dr. Sue Stiff of Kiln Creek Animal. Well, she was owner of Kiln Creek Animal Care. Gosh, I think maybe she's retired at this point.
Mhm.
I know she moved practiced out in Gloucester, but she was my very first like real boss, right?
Mhm.
You know, I'd done babysitting and such before, and she was incredible. This is back in, all right, hold on, let me go back. This
Take
was
your calculator.
1996, 1997, and
Mhm.
I wanted to be a veterinarian. And
Mhm.
so I decided I needed to get a job working somewhere to get that experience. And I wrote letters to all the local veterinarians, and I had two practices call me, Kiln Creek Animal Care being one of them. And they were like, "Hey, do you want to be a kennel attendant? And by the way, we'll let you observe and see all of the other fun stuff we do." And that job was great. And what I loved about Dr. Stiff is that she always kept it real. Like,
Mhm.
you had direct, immediate feedback. And she was kind, but also very honest and
That's
firm. And I
important.
think
Yeah.
that was shocking in a good way for
Mhm.
me as, some, spoiled teenager. And,
Mhm.
it was great. She would, you came in late, she's going
Mhm.
to check you on that, right? But she's also just so supportive. And
Mhm.
I could go on and on. But I remember one of the things that she did that left like an impression on me still to this day is I would go on the weekends, so they're not vet services are closed, but I'm coming to take care of the dogs. And
Mhm.
so having them with their outside time. And I really enjoyed art. And so I had a sketchbook and I'd sketch and since sitting out with the dogs and all that. And I
Mhm.
accidentally left it at work over the weekend, like back in the kennel area. And I came back, that week later to work, got my book and all that. Well, it was like 2 months later, she had her like annual holiday party, Christmas party at her house for all her staff and all. And she
Mhm.
would buy each one of her staff member like something and it was personalized. And she bought me a whole art kit. And like pastels and
Mhm.
different pencils and stuff.
That's
And she goes,
nice.
I saw your art and I love it and just, keep it up. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like she didn't say a word to me like
Mhm.
in the months, but she had seen it. And I was that was showed such I don't know, such value in me.
Mhm.
And later on, she wrote me recommendations for vet school. Obviously, I changed majors and stuff, but I still think of that. I mean, we all work,
Yeah.
and but, we're all human. And when
Mhm.
someone takes a personal interest in you, it's just it leaves an impression on you forever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That question came from Derek Van Mel. He was two podcasts ago. I wasn't sure who it was, but I'm pretty sure it was Derek. So you have to now pass the baton to my next guest.
Okay.
So it doesn't need to be about your podcast. Doesn't need to be about. It could be what's your favorite color. It could be anything that you want. So give me a question for the next podcast guest.
Gosh, my question for oh gosh. Now I'm thinking, what could I ask them? Of course, I want to ask them all kinds of HR stuff, but
Hmm.
um, you know what? I
Hmm.
will. My
Sure.
question will be, uh, assuming that this person has had direct reports,
Hmm.
employees,
Yep.
what was their best employee? Like the traits of that best employee, what made them so valuable for that position?
Okay.
So,
Done. That
great.
that we that will do. We'll pass that on, and I try and share that with my previous podcast guests just so they get an answer to that. So you
I love
should get an
that.
answer to that question. I don't know when it will be, but hopefully soon. Thank you, Carrie. How would anyone get in touch with you if they want more information about Advantage Rewards?
Absolutely. So, our wonderful Chief Revenue Officer, Amber Callahan, has made a landing site for Advantage Rewards. So, if you go to firstadvantage.org,
Mhm.
and if you go, there's four tabs kind of on the top left. If you go under Business and Benefits and Services, there is HR and Benefits Consulting.
Okay.
Alternatively, people can email me. My email is CCHI, so C-Chi, at firstadvantage.org. And first is the number 1, ST.
I'll put all of this in the show notes so that, when they can just click on it just to make it easier.
Yes.
Same thing with the link to the website.
That would be great. Yeah. But
a
I'm
little
always happy to.
spell it for everybody. We'll make it easy for them.
Yeah.
Is there any additional information that you would want me to include in the show notes? You can certainly send it over and I'll include it in there, just so that folks can, if you've got any white papers or anything like that you want to share with, my tens of listeners, you're more than welcome.
Oh, that's great.
Stuff. So you just let me know and I'll take care of that.
That's wonderful. That sounds great. Well, thanks again for having me. This has been really fun. I'm so glad you're doing this.
Thanks for being here. If there's anything else you want to talk about in the future, just let me know and we'll hop back on and we'll do it again.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk of any kind of hard pressing HR dilemmas or benefit strategy. It'd be great.
We can do that. Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you.
And opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any organization, employer, or entity. The content provided is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. Always seek the guidance of a qualified expert for any specific concerns. Thank you for listening to the Knowledge Stack Podcast.